Hello, Mary. How are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you, Kate?
I am wonderful. Thank you so much for joining me on Talking to the Pros. I was really excited. I am very excited to tape this episode for our audience, of course. And you've got such an incredible background. I really wanted to share your story with anyone and everyone who wants to hear a little bit about, education, the value of education, and jumping into the world of business and being able to balance, work and business and everything else. And so I couldn't think of a cooler person to have on the show in order to do that. So if you don't
Thank
mind,
you.
I would love, love, love for you to tell our audience a little bit about you and your background and your education. And then, of course, we'll jump into business.
Awesome. Yeah. My background in education is I have a PhD in sociology, a special focus there on social psychology. And it was quite a journey because, the program the PhD program should take about 5 years. But when I was in my fourth year, I ended up transferring schools and didn't have to start completely from scratch, but had to, um, like, I it tacked on 4 more years. So my 5 year
Oh,
program became 8 years total. So I invested 8 years of my life to get that PhD.
that is a commitment. Good for you for
Yeah.
sticking with it.
Thank you.
Awesome. So what did you end up doing after you've graduated from school and how did that degree, how did it apply to your day to day and what did you focus on? What do you feel like maybe it had brought into your life that you weren't necessarily expecting?
Yeah. Um, I mean, it was tricky at first to navigate what that looked like after graduation because the program I was in, it was a very research heavy university. Um, the the track that they set you on is to become a research professor. So you do your own research, you teach classes as well, you mentor students, all of that. And when I got close to the end of the program, I just realized that that was not what I was meant to do. I loved the research side. I do love teaching, but the university setting was just not where my heart was. Um, and that was a really tough decision, but it was something that I had to do. And so it sort of left me with, if you stay on the track that they are putting you through, then the options and the decisions afterwards become very easy. You apply for university jobs, you do the interviews and the presentations and all of this, you get an offer, you negotiate, you accept, and then there you go. But when you get to the end of that, and that's what the whole track has been focused on, is getting you into a research professor position, and you decide that's not what it's going to be for me, then I had to start from scratch. It was like, okay, well, what am I going to do? It wasn't like there was something else pulling me in a different direction. It was just a push away from this direction. And so right out of the gate, I took a job making $13 an hour with a PhD.
Wow. Okay.
And even for 2014, that was not a lot of money, but it was, and it wasn't like an ideal job. It was just something, in the
What was the
meantime.
job?
So I worked with like a boutique pet food store, and helping them with like community outreach and events and stuff like that, but also the operations within their store. Kind of using my analytical mind and data mind and all of that to look at the numbers and see like how they weren't really keeping track of sales, and they would run out of food before they,
Right.
and they needed it, or they would order too much of one thing. So I helped them kind of figure all that out and get some systems in place. Um, and helped them run some community events and stuff for awareness of their brand. Um, but it was just a struggle to make $13 an hour in a major city. And so I kind of just kept working my way up through different jobs. Looking back, like I didn't really notice the pattern at first, but looking back, each job that I had, there were only three, but that one, the boutique pet food store. And then next after that was I worked with a home renovation company. It was just a guy, the owner, a project manager, and me. Um, and then the third was moving into a fitness facility, a boutique gym, and, helping to grow that brand as well. But each of those jobs was me working very closely with the business owner. And they were all, small business owners. Like, so I guess that's probably when my entrepreneurial bug really started, is like working closely with these people and seeing what they were doing and seeing the impact they were having and the decisions that they had to make and the opportunities that they had to find to keep growing their business. I just was fascinated by it. And I got to learn directly from them how to run a business, like I didn't get that education in school. I got it on the ground working side by side with these entrepreneurs, which was an incredible education in and of itself.
Do you find that with the small businesses, it sounds like they're all in different industries, which is kind of
Mhm.
cool actually, because you get very different exposure to different things, with sort of supply chain or inventory tracking being an issue at the pet food store, is very different than fitness or construction or home renovations or anything like that. Do you find that there's a common pattern in sort of smaller businesses or small business owners where they consistently falter on things, or don't know how to cross a particular hurdle because they haven't encountered that yet? And if they don't have a lot of, friends or family that has managed or grown a larger business, that they also don't have anyone to sort of look up to or come to for support or for advice when it comes to making the step and moving a business to a larger entity.
Mm, that's a great question. I think when you first started that question, I immediately saw a pattern that all three, or like a problem that all three had. And I'm not sure that it aligns with exactly what you were getting at with like the mentorship and stuff, but um, competition. Like
Mm.
all three of those businesses had massive competition from other small businesses and also from big names, so I saw that what they each struggled with, and I got to see very personally because we would talk about these things, like
Sure.
how can we set ourselves apart from this company, or like for one of the brands, a different company, a small business opened that like exactly mirrored their business,
Oh, wow.
and they came right out of the gate extremely competitive and like going for my people's throats, and so then they never really had any competition like that in the market, and then this guy planted his business right there down the street, blew it up really quick, and they were like, what can we do? And so a lot of it was strategizing through, how do you stand out? How do you make loyal customers? How do you get people to come back? How do you get your brand recognized? Like all of these things. What are you doing that's a little bit different that nobody else has, that, to offer, that you are offering? A lot of it was around that, like the unique selling propositions and
Mhm.
standing out and the brand building and all that.
So, and that's a really great point actually, and I can see how your marketing business would yield itself quite nicely to that because you've seen it firsthand now. And well, I suppose you had to help your clients in terms of, or your employers in terms of figuring out how to get ahead of the competition or to even just stay competitive, right? So let's
Yeah.
talk a little bit about your business, which of course is a full service marketing, sort of this boutique marketing, from what I understand. And I would love to hear a little bit more about the passion that you have for marketing, but also the passion that you have for your clients and how you really support them in terms of setting them apart from the competition.
I love that. Thank you. Yeah, so there's sort of two sides to my business. One side is full service email marketing, and that is in like a boutique agency kind of container.
Okay.
So it's me and like two other copywriters handling all of the clients there. And then the other side is consulting. And that's really, like where are the opportunities that you're missing? Where's the hidden money or like the easy profit that you're missing out on? Um, you know, Getting some clarity around all of that and diagnosing opportunities and all of that with them. Um, and so those are sort of the two prongs of my business. And I'm really passionate about both. I know people are like, do one thing and do it really good. And what I have found is that even though I love all the hands-on of email marketing too, I love writing the copy, I love, getting on the tech side and doing all of that. I found that um, there are other people who can do that equally well, but like nobody has my brain. And so I had to find a way to start using my brain and leveraging that to make more money for myself and the people who work, my team. And so that's where like the consulting side really started ramping up. That's where actually bringing on a team to do the implementation. And I am sort of like chief of strategy, right? So like overseeing the strategy, looking for the holes, pointing things out, and letting them execute frees me up from day to day in the grind, writing daily emails, um, which is a fantastic skill and invaluable to our clients. But I couldn't serve as many people as I can now if I was doing it all myself, or at least to the fullest ability that I can now that I have help from my team.
Absolutely. That's a really good one, actually. I'm super curious to hear a little bit about how your PhD ties into that, because at the end of the day, you're dealing with people, right? People's behaviors, which are very apparent when it comes to marketing, sometimes not so apparent when it comes to the consulting piece, because you're consulting on a variety of different things, which I think we can sort of collectively maybe call operations, right? And that includes obviously, things like HR, finance, and marketing as well. And so it's got all of these different sort of, facets of that piece. And that part is hard sometimes because, we do some business consulting as well. And I do find it very difficult because sometimes you're looking at the overarching strategy for the company. And with small businesses, the clients don't often know what those are yet,
Mm,
right? And so you need sort of the chief to have a direction in
mm,
order for you to build in the steps to execute that direction, and the people that you need, and the resources, and the marketing. So everything has to align, but the direction's often, I'm assuming, not set by you. So let's talk a little bit about how you utilize your degree in terms of having conversations, maybe having difficult conversations, um, guiding individuals without telling them what to do. I think that part is important as well.
mm.
And how you really take that education that you've received, both in terms of research and in terms of the statistics of it, and then apply it to to both sides of your businesses.
That's awesome. That's an awesome question. Lots to unpack there. Um, I think and this is funny because when I first graduated and went off to do these other things at first, it was like I didn't really see the connection between the degree that I had gotten and the jobs that I was taking, especially because, when you're in grad school in such a focused environment where the track is get your degree, go on to this exact type of position. When you get out of that, you're like, oh, I didn't do that. So that was a waste. Or like, that I can't use that degree because I can't use it how they taught me to or how they trained me to, right? So there was a disconnect for many years, and I didn't even like talking about the fact that I had a PhD because um probably because those were my limiting beliefs of like, oh, I can't use that or I'm not using it. I seemed to attract those kind of comments too from people like, oh my gosh, you wasted that much time and you're not even using it. And I was like, you know what? I'm just not even going to talk about this. I'm just going to keep it to myself. But then as I stepped into, freelancer shoes and entrepreneurial shoes, I started to see how much that degree, and not just that it's a sociology degree, but the path and the journey getting there is so relatable to business. Being able to manage projects is one that I never even knew I was doing project management in grad school until I got into
Because they
entrepreneurship.
don't
And then I
call
was
it that, right?
right, exactly. But you have an end goal, you have an end, like a date it has to be completed by. You have to know what all the steps are. You have to know if you're on track as you're going through those steps. You have to be organized. Like all of those skills that I learned there come into play in my own business and helping my clients. Especially when I'm doing the consulting side, it's like, okay, what's the big goal, And they've got these big audacious goals and they just want to run and like it's there, just get it out. And it's like, okay, yes, and we will do that. It's going to require us to do A, B, and C before we get to X, Y, and Z. And so what are those steps? I can help kind of bring that clarity, not to slow them down, but to prevent us from taking a bunch of wasted steps in between, just trying to rush to get there. And, then there's the whole sociology side, and I'm in marketing and understanding the way that, and the social psychology comes into it, like understanding the way that people think, understanding group behavior. A lot of my clients are coaching, they have coaching communities and mentorship. And so what makes people want to belong to a group? What makes people want to stay in a group? What gives people group identity that they are longing for? Like being able to figure all that out and say, it's not just about the modules in your course. It's about the identity shifts that are happening inside those
Ooh,
modules,
that's a good one.
right? Um, and a lot of people either don't see that or they just don't think about it in that way. And so with everything I know about sociology and, social psychology and group behavior and all of this stuff, I see it. It's plain as day to me. And so helping my clients build these communities, and one of the like niches I say I cover are movement makers.
Ooh,
And how do we actually move people to take action and move people in the direction that you want? A lot of that is sociology based and social psychological.
absolutely. I would imagine so. Yes, that sounds really, really interesting. Actually, I've always loved psychology. So
Yeah.
to me, it's just fascinating stuff. Um, let's talk a little bit about what everybody loves talking about, which is challenges.
Mm.
I think we've all had many challenges as entrepreneurs. I know you've got little ones as well. I think as mothers, there's a lot of challenges, and I think just finding yourself as well. I feel like we go through so many different phases in our lives, right? I think motherhood is certainly a big change, in your own behavior and your own priorities as well. Starting a business is a huge change. But also, I think finding out what makes you want to do that. And sometimes it's not clear as day, right? You're sort of walking around the room blindfolded, trying to feel your way around to make sure that you don't stumble and fall. I find that's what a lot of first year entrepreneurs and parents experience sort of in the same way, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about some of the challenges that you've had in your career, and what helped you overcome them.
Mm. It's really interesting because I've got two girls, and my older daughter, she's 4. She was born pre the busy bell. And my other daughter, who's 2, was born post the busy bell. So my first daughter, I stayed home with her for the first, I keep saying 11 months, but I think she was only 8 months when the pandemic started.
Okay.
And that's kind of when, I said, okay, we got to do something. I got to go back to work. Um, so I didn't have the work-life balance stress with her. Like all
Right.
I had to do was, and not all I had to do,
No, no, I get it.
but all I had to do was mother her and figure that out. And it was lovely and it was a blessing. Um, with my second daughter, she was born on a Saturday. I went home from the hospital on Sunday and I went back to work on Monday because I had signed 2 big clients at the beginning of September and she was born on September 11th.
Wow.
So, and this was pre-agency. So I
It
didn't
was
have
just you.
any, it was just me. And I had just signed these 2 huge clients for, daily email, the whole full service email marketing. So,
How did that go?
well, it's, mentally, I felt like this is okay. This is great. I have pictures of her and I when she was a baby. I made a makeshift desk attached to my couch. So she would lay on my chest or she would nurse. Um, and I had this little desk in front of me that I could pull up to the couch. It was on wheels. I could pull it towards me and she could sleep or breastfeed and I could type away or be on my meetings or do whatever I needed to do. And we made it work. However, when she turned 4 months old, we went to her 4-month appointment and I discovered at her pediatrician appointment that she had lost weight. And I had no idea. I had no idea we were having an issue there. She didn't complain, and I couldn't tell. And so like immediately went through all of this guilt and judgment. Like, how did I not know? That made me feel like a terrible mother. Um, like, how did this even happen? Um, there was a lot of judgment and it killed my confidence as a mom, as a woman. I felt like this is something I did it fine with my first daughter,
Right.
like
Which is the
why
one
can't,
that usually you're all paranoid about and, triple checking everything, right? Second one, you're
yeah,
like, I think I got this.
I know. I'm like, I got this. And um thinking too, like that I had it all under control, running a full-time business and being a mom and nursing and all of this. I was like, I got this. And that was a huge blow to my ego, to my confidence, to everything, to my
Mm.
beliefs that I even had about being able to do both. It was like, clearly you can't because you failed. That was the thoughts going through my head. I'm failing as a mom. Um, I'm failing as a woman. Like my body should be able to do this. This is so embarrassing, and it's funny to think about it now because it's like so many women have trouble breastfeeding. So
Absolutely.
why I took it so personally is like, wow,
I
that
think it's also
just,
because you've done it before, and we are so hard on ourselves because we know that our
yeah,
babies rely on us solely and completely, and we are there to take care of them, right? I think
yeah,
it's something that we definitely do to ourselves. I mean, postpartum hormones are probably I'm going to blame those as
also a
well.
mess.
Those are not fun, right? But I do think that we do this a lot to ourselves. The guilt that we experience, I think, as mothers for not giving ourselves 100% of ourselves to our children is something that I think has plagued every single woman that has more than one child and is not a stay-at-home mom, right? And even
Yeah,
then, I think I find it challenging because I've had this conversation with so many women, including my own mother, who was a wonderful mom. But it's sort of a where do you find the balance between doing things that make you happy, that make your family money,
mm,
that make you feel fulfilled as a human being. And then where do you draw the line from being literally the entire universe to another human being? Which, I mean, no
yeah.
pressure, right? Like that.
Yeah, no big deal.
Right. And here's the other thing too. I mean, and that's something that I didn't, really think about until now. You also had another child to take care of at that time. It wasn't just you, business and baby. Not that that's not enough to begin with,
Yeah.
but you also had a toddler, right? A
Yes.
2-year-old at the time. And
And a
parenting, it's
husband
and a
and a
husband, right?
husband who was on the road. So like I was
Oh,
doing a lot of this by myself.
right. Wow. That
Yeah.
that that is a lot to take on. And I think those
Yeah.
are the things we don't consider. We think I've done the baby thing. I think I can add a few more tasks to my day or a full-time job in your case, while still being able to take care of a newborn and another little human being that still solely relies on you for existence, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, that's 3 full-time jobs. But
Well, and I must really be a glutton for punishment because like that appointment was in February and in April I got a puppy.
oh,
So
okay.
so I just was like, hey, if we're gonna make it rain, let's make it pour, you know? Um, but
Bring it on.
like all like what happened with the breastfeeding journey, um, couple things. Number one, it knocked my confidence, which I had no idea would have such a big impact on my business. If you don't feel confident
Hmm.
in your personal life, in your own body, it's hard to show up confidently in your business. So I learned that lesson really hardcore. Um, oh, there was one other thing I was gonna. Oh, and then the other thing is that, and I always come back to support and community, and I needed that again here. So I found lactation specialists. I found support groups for moms who were pumping, which I never knew anything about before this happened, right? I was like asking for help and advice on what pumps and how to make it easier and how any supplements I should be taking. Like all of this came
Right.
from support system. And, like you had asked earlier about the business owners I worked for before when I was their employee and like what struggles do they face and mentorship and support and all that. Like as moms, we need that. As entrepreneurs, we need that. So even when my clients are struggling, and yes, they've helped me or hired me and we're working together, but it's like they also need support. Some of my clients, we've got our Asana board together of like, here's our timeline, here's our projects, here's our resources, and here's your mindset board. And
Right.
like, here's the books that I recommend because I know what you're going through. Like, you should be reading that, not you should be, but like, here's a book that I read when I was in that
Yeah, it
place and it was
helps.
really helpful. Yeah. Here's a meditation practice I use daily. Give it a shot, see if you like it. Like, so I offer that kind of support to my clients too who need it. Um, but we need support, we need community, which is why
I
I'm
love
so
that.
passionate about working with coaches and
Right.
movement makers because they are offering that support and community to their people. And I love helping people who are doing that for others.
No, a lot of great points there. I think I think people often don't realize when they need help, right? Um,
Absolutely.
I think you think you're having a bad day, or you just have to shift your focus to this priority, but sometimes there's a lot more going on. Um, all around. So I'm glad that you obviously found the help that you needed, and both your girls are healthy.
Yes.
And all of that ended up working itself out. But how did you get back on track? You said that it really impacted sort of your mental well-being, your confidence levels, in
Mm.
terms of being able to juggle both. So how long did it take? And you know, did you end up not only surpassing I guess, the previous levels, but maybe going well above and beyond what you thought you were capable of?
Absolutely. And I owe a lot of that confidence rebuilding to one of my coaches and mentors, and she's a client and she's a very good friend. Her name is Laura Catella, and she has this Diamond Day mastermind where we come together in community. And she challenges us and gives us the tools to build our mindset. And for me, like, I wasn't even aware that all of that stuff had to do with my confidence until she started pulling it out. And I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize why I was being so hard on myself. I didn't even realize why the things that I used to know to do in my own business, like putting myself out there. I used to go live on Facebook all the time, when I first started. Like all of those confident things that I used to do, I was like, oh, I'm not even doing that anymore. I had no idea that connection. And she helped me make that connection and then gave me the tools and the community to come out of it on the other side and rebuild. And yes, I absolutely rebuilt stronger than ever before. Um, I say 2022 was like the year of this confidence crash, and 2023 was rebuilding that confidence and just becoming a complete bad A. I don't know if you curse on your podcast, but like
I do. If you
I
know
just
me,
became
if you
my
know me as a
badass
human
self.
being, you know that I curse as a drunken sailor. Um,
Okay. We didn't
so,
talk about that ahead of time, so I was like,
right, yes,
wasn't sure,
fair.
but
I mean,
yeah, I
people
just
don't expect HR specialists to usually swear a lot, but
yeah. Although they probably need it, right?
I think we should be allowed to. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Um, but at one of the most recent events, before we got too deep into the learning and discovery at the event, she just called on somebody, my friend Johanna, in the crowd, and she was like, Johanna, who have you known here the longest? And she said, Mary. And she said, and what have you seen in Mary? I can't remember how she phrased it, but it was like, what have you seen in Mary that you didn't used to see when you first met her? And she's like, she called it right out. She was like, her confidence has grown so much, and she is such a confident badass. And I just started crying. I was like, you have no idea how untrue that was for me last year and how I now feel it is true again. And for somebody else to see that and reflect it back to you, it felt amazing. And so again, like entrepreneurs, we've got to be in support and community. Because the things that we go through, we are all going through, or we've all been through. And when you think you're alone, when you think it's hard, when you think nobody else understands, they do. We do.
I think that's the biggest challenge of entrepreneurship. People think that this is a problem that's unique to them. It is not, most
Absolutely.
definitely. I assure, I assure you, I talk to business owners all the time, and the hiccups that they have are so consistent across the board, that the fact that, not reaching out for help and thinking that we don't have a solution for that, that's not the case at all. But everybody does, and I do the same thing in my business, right? We think,
Yeah.
well, my business is a little bit different than everybody other, than all of the other HR consulting companies out there. Fair, that's fine. However, the challenges that I'm having are probably not unique at all. So finding the
Yeah.
right people to talk to consult with, to just sometimes just to bounce ideas off of as well, and finding people outside of your industry. You don't know what you don't know, right? So
Yeah.
somebody might have a perfectly simple solution for you, you just haven't thought about it yet because you didn't think that a marketing expert might have a solution for an HR business in operations,
Right.
right? So
Right.
I think that's incredible. I'm really happy to hear that you are taking this business to the next level. What's on the agenda for 2024? What big initiatives are you launching? What are you hoping to achieve?
Um, what am I hoping? Oh my gosh, this is like, I know everybody sets goals and everything, and um, I guess I haven't really sat down to do that yet. I hit my biggest month ever in December in my entire
Wow.
business by over 10 grand. So I feel like I'm just in this place of all of the rebuilding that I did in 2023, all of the personal development has really made an impact. And I'm not coasting. I am like doubling down on everything I did to get there. Um, and finding that it's not necessarily about all of the strategies that I could use. It's about working on myself. And so that's going to be a huge focus in 2024 and sharing that with my team. Like I just gifted all of my clients and my team this Project 369 book, The Key to the Universe.
Ooh,
It's like a half journal, half educational, piece on like finding the magic within you and creating whatever you want. And so that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be creating whatever I want this year.
I love it. I love it. I can't wait to see what you're going to create by the end of the year. Thank you so much for being with me today. If people want to contact you and use your services, where can they find you?
Yeah, I'm on social media. So Instagram or Facebook, Mary Lasky Bell. Um, and they could also visit my website if they want, which is the Busy Bell. It has an E at the end.com.